So I think that she's going to come right back.
This is like aggravating. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm glad you're hosting it, so everybody can keep on hearing it.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll go through them. Do you still have the first pair you ever made?
Oh yeah, I actually. Yeah, I do. They're super rough. And then when I started out, I was in school getting my MFA. So the first many pairs that I made ended up being my thesis project. But yeah, I still have the first pairs. I also have like a whole box of shoes that I call it the box of shame, and I have the shelf of shame. So I do have all of that stuff. Totally, of course. Yeah.
I saw on Instagram you and Marika. I guess Marika just posted the second pair of shoes that she made.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice.
Yeah,
to kind of
it was beautiful. They're beautiful shoes too. Yeah.
Okay. Any tips for hole cut success? I hear it's challenging.
No, I also hear that it's challenging. I can hear you. I heard the question.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing with any kind of shoe success is getting your pattern correct. I mean, this is in my opinion. In my opinion, the most important thing is getting your pattern correct. Making a hole cut pattern is super easy. It's very simple. The thing that's challenging about a hole cut is lasting. And so it's kind of similar to a cowboy boot in that there's just, with a shoe where there's seams, you can create the volume to fall over the last. With a hole cut, there's no seams, so you have to last it very well. So I would recommend practicing your lasting for making a hole cut and getting your pattern, getting that top line nice and tight over the last. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So next one, Saboteuse bespoke up all those wax threads hanging there, or did you source some?
No, totally not. They're from Main Threads. Yeah, that would take like a year.
Okay.
No, I have some rolls.
Another one. You order each pair specifically to customers' preference about the last
for the last
shapes.
Yeah.
And then you adjust to the measurements. Do you have a standard or favorite? Yeah.
Yeah, so I order lasts for each shoe, and I order them large and cut them down.
Do you have a
what I need in the last.
Okay.
Sorry? Yeah, you're breaking up a little too. I don't know who it is.
Can you hear me?
Between us. I can hear you now.
Somebody asked, where do you get
insole? That has been a long journey. I get it from a bunch of different places, and now, I was using the store. If people can hear me or can hear Kiko. Can you hear me, Kiko? I'm clear, Amara. Okay, thank you. So for the insole leather, I get it from Obalter. It's JR. It's the same place that has. I
think it's real
too. Maybe that will be helpful.
Thanks for answering some of the questions that everybody's asking.
No, it's my pleasure. Of course.
There's somebody. Hey there, it's me. Says, what would you suggest to those who are pursuing footwear designing?
Design is really different than making.
Yeah.
So for design, I don't totally know. I'm the wrong person to ask that question to, I think. I'm sorry to say. You probably know more.
Well, actually, I'm going to be interviewing Aki Chocolate from
awesome. Cool.
Detroit. Maybe tune in at that. Maybe he has like a
design
book. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to keep on asking some questions. I want to time travel back to your beginning. Is that okay? How did you start shoemaking? Who are your mentors?
Yeah, so I started making shoes. It was kind of a dramatic start. When I started making shoes, I was at the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, and I was in school for graphic design, and it's a 3-year program. And 2 years into it, I was in a major car accident, and I had a head injury, so I couldn't do anything I was doing before. I had problems with my eyes, and with my brain, and with my neck, and with my chest. So I took a shoemaking class, and it was like the one thing that I could do for some reason. I was partnered up with somebody. I would sit next to them and kind of we would work together. And then I decided to really, I don't know if I even consciously decided, I somehow just kept making shoes, and I was making shoes that were more artistic and performance based. So they were talking about injury and recovery. They all altered your relationship with the ground somehow. So that was how I started making shoes. And then I continued by learning from cowboy boot maker D.W. Frommer out in Oregon. He's a wonderful, generous teacher. And I learned how to do welted construction from him. And I made boots for a little while. And then I decided that maybe boot making, there's a wonderful, wonderful boot maker here in Minnesota named Buster Bartels. And I would recommend all people interested in cowboy boots in this area to definitely go find him more than me. And so after that, I went and I learned from, I decided I wanted to learn menswear and more handmade stuff. So I went to Janne Melkerson in Sweden, and I learned a little bit about menswear from him. And then I worked on that kind of footwear for a couple of years. And then I went to Marcel Merchant, and I learned from him for a little while. And then I came back to my workshop, and that's where I am now. It says DW is the man, a wealth of knowledge. I agree. He is wonderful and fiery, and he was a very generous teacher for me. He's exactly the teacher that I needed at that moment. That's how I started making shoes. Somebody asked if like advice for somebody trying to get into handmade shoes. When I started, DW said that he wouldn't wish to be a shoemaker on his worst enemy. And at the time, I was like, you know, I thought that was crazy advice. And it made me all the more determined, but I understand what he's talking about. You can ask DW one-liner and the reply will be so comprehensive that you would have to file it away for some. It's really true. He really is a wealth of knowledge. So for those of you wanting to start shoemaking, I would just say practice. That's all there is to it. You know, none of it is rocket science. It's really just a matter of practicing your techniques and learning from your mistakes, and keeping your eyes open and working. Oh wait, one more time about the insoles. I broke up. Okay, so I get insole right now. I'm getting JR insole from Obalter in San Francisco. I get it in you know, shoulders. All right, I think Kiko's coming back. Just waiting for her. What is the most wild leather you used for a pair of shoes? The most wild leather I've used for a pair of shoes, I used fish skin. I don't know if that's wild. I really loved using it. It's beautiful to work with. I think that tannery has since closed. So those skins are now no longer available. So that's a tragedy for, I mean, that's just a major bummer.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Is a tannery overseas or was it American?
It's in Iceland.
It's in Iceland. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a traditional, you know, Iceland doesn't have any big animals for leather, so they had fish skin that they had tanned for a long time.
That's beautiful. Oh, there's so many questions. Okay. I got another question. What qualifications we should have for working in a bespoke firm?
That's a good question. I think every place would have their own, you know, requirements and their own needs. I don't know that there's really bespoke firms in the United States. It's mostly individual makers.
Yeah. Do you take apprentices? Do you teach people?
I do teach. I think the word apprentice is kind of like, there's always the idea of a shoemaker's apprentice, but that was really something from when we had to like pound sewing leather, which we no longer have to do, or like, you know, we had kids that would start working for us from a very, very early age. So I don't take apprentices. I do teach. I teach sometimes at different craft schools. They bring me in and I teach out of my workshop here in Minnesota.
Yeah. And one-on-one private classes mostly?
Yeah, the ones that are here, my studio workshop is so small that I can't accommodate more than 2 people. But yeah, so it's mostly one-on-one. And then when I'm teaching at schools, it's a lot more. So.
Yeah, definitely. If you had unlimited resources and time in the world, what shoe would you make? And for whom?
You know, I dream about just making beautiful shoes for nobody to wear. I really like practicing technique and using new materials. So I think if I had unlimited time and resources, I would make every pair out of a different type of leather, and they would just be beautiful to my eyes, and I wouldn't have to worry about them hurting someone. Right.
And then would it be for yourself? Maybe.
You know, I make most of my shoes in my own, like, sample shoes in my size.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not gonna, I would never want to make a shoe for a client that I hadn't tested that technique or that leather on myself. And also I have big feet, so they're kind of in between men's and women's looking.
Funny. But similar question answer to Marika, actually. Marika says she practices too. Yeah.
That's funny.
What would you do differently post-corona virus, like pandemic?
Yeah.
Would you do anything differently with your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that in terms of contact, because we necessarily have to be very physically close to people. I might go I would go to their place. I'm not totally sure. One of the biggest fears I have about the virus is that it will be kind of the end of professional shoemaking, just because there's going to be a lot of lean times, I think, coming up, and a lot of professional makers, it's already really tight to do this as a job and make your living. Making shoes. So my fear is I don't know the answer to what I will do differently, but certainly things will change. I see there's another question that says, what do I wish that I knew when I first started out? You know, that's a good question. What did I wish I knew now that I actually kind of miss the times when I first started, because there was a great freedom in not knowing very much. And so there's a design freedom, and there's just a freedom in experimentation that, you know, the more you know, the better you get in some ways, but you're also confined by you know,
the knowledge that you have and the experience.
Yeah. And shoemaking is so much, there's so much tradition. Yeah. And there's so much, we all have a lot of thoughts about how other people are doing things.
Yeah.
And so I feel like in some ways, not knowing all that stuff is a lot more free. But what did I wish that I knew? I wish I knew how to use a curved needle machine when I first started out.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Funny. Cool. If you had known how to use a curved needle machine, then would you do different styles from what you were making? Oh, I also wanted so many questions about your artwork.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Any stories behind some of the art, like the wearables? They all can be worn. They all can be worn. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I could, I would just make beautiful shoes and shoe art. I really wish that I had more financial resources that I could take time away from doing client work.
Maybe someday I'll be at that point, or there won't be any client work and I'll have that freedom. I don't know if I don't really want to wish for that, but
do you have any you can show us, or is it all somewhere?
No, you know, a bunch of it is actually at a show in LA.
That's great. Where in LA?
It's at OTIS College.
Okay.
So a bunch of stuff is there. Here, I'm just going to turn around. These are some larger pieces. This is a pair of riding boots and cowboy boots, and some really tall ones that I made a couple of years ago. That are, I don't know, I make them for fun. I think that feet are they're beautiful form. Like you wouldn't make shoes if you didn't find shoes beautiful. So
yeah. What's the story behind like I call it the Chopins or Chopins or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But was there like a philosophical something behind that artwork when you were making it?
You know, there was no conceptual underpinning. I really like looking at historical footwear and learning about the history of it, and kind of how clothing generally and footwear in particular inhibits or enhances bodily movement. Yeah. And so those shoes in particular are unique, and I was enjoying reading about them and kind of what they meant at that time period when they were being worn in Venice is what they're kind of based off of. So yeah, I was thinking about economic. I mean, I guess that's untrue to say there was no. I was thinking about economic change. I was making them during the last recession.
Okay.
And that was where they came from, I guess.
Maybe do you have? I feel like this. Lockdown is also something that's like a big event in our lives. Maybe you create some art.
Yeah, it's funny. I've thought about that a lot too, because like nobody's dressing up to go out, but people are still dressing up and staying in. And so maybe we'll have some really beautiful, non-functional, like not walking shoes, but just things that look gorgeous in
the bedroom.
Yeah.